Scotia. I wanna thank all the poets, Andre, Fenton, Habiba Jallo, Martin Matale, David Woods, for responding to Marilyn's request to choose some of my poems and to read and perform them for you this evening. And a big thank you to Evelyn C. White for doing the opening honors and for saying such wonderful things about me and my work. And I do remember the meeting in Victoria, British Columbia. And thank you for the poem. Gwendolyn Brooks is just one of my favorite poets. I just read one of her poems like yesterday, in supposedly a children's poem, but it's kind of like heavy. This is for John, who is poor. That's the title of the poem. I also want to thank Adrienne Duperley, because Adrienne called me this evening and she said, or this afternoon, or this morning, and she said, I don't want you to drive, I want to come and pick you up. I don't want you to worry about feeding yourself. I'm going to take you out for a meal and then I'm going to drop you off at City Hall. And that was so beautiful because you know when you're about to go up on stage, you're kind of nervous, you're driving around trying to find parking, and as you know, it was almost impossible to find parking tonight. So, Adrienne, I really, really appreciate that. Thank you. I want to dedicate this reading to Kamal Brathwaite, the Caribbean poet, and here's why. Kamal passed away on the 4th of February. Just now, this month. And Kamal was one of the foundational, pioneering, all those adjectives that you want to use, voices in Caribbean literature and Caribbean poetry, certainly in global literature. He was one of those poets that privileged or talked about the importance of speaking in our own language, which he called nation language, or mother tongue, call it patois, Creole, Jamaican, Caribbean talk. And Kamal was, when I thought about being a poet, when I thought about what it is that I would like to do in this world, Kamal was one of those people who gave me a roadmap. Because he was also a historian, and he also wrote foundational texts in Caribbean history. And so here's this intellectual, this person, originally born in Barbados, but did a big chunk of his career in Jamaica, where I'm from, who was doing what it is I thought I would want to do in this world. Kamal was also a playwright, and when I was in high school in Kingston in the 70s, we performed one of his plays called Odale's Choice, which is a Caribbean, or an African, actually he wrote the play in Ghana, where he was education officer for a while. Odale's Choice is a West African riff of Antigone, the Greek tragedy. And I was one of the actors with us. So what an honor to have this person, this intellectual, this artist, this individual, whose play we were performing for the National Drama Festival, be at our rehearsal to give us share his knowledge, his expertise, and his theater direction, and so forth. And the play did really well. In Jamaica, we have this system of high school this competition of high school drama, high school theater, where secondary schools compete. It's just real competition once a year, whether it's in stage performance, whether it's a play or choir, choral singing, or poetry. It's very fierce. The competition is fierce. And so Kamal passed away. He was 89 years old, and it was announced in New York Times and all of that. The Prime Minister of Barbados talked about him. He died in Barbados, and I thought, wow, here's one of my heroes. He's gone, and he actually gave me a language, or helped to give me a language that I could use in poetry. As I mentioned, Kamal privileged Caribbean mother tongues. He wrote some foundational poetry texts like The Arrivals, one called Mother Poem, The Middle Passage, and so on. And so when Andre Fenton told me he was going to do the poem, True Revolution, which I was responding to Kamal Brathwaite, because Kamal Brathwaite has this poem called Revolution. And as a poet coming up, I responded to that poem where I said, no, Kamal, there won't be a revolution. And I said to Andre, I'll tell you why the poem you chose is so important, because I didn't tell him my reading would be a tribute to Kamal, but that he would find out when I got up here. So, Kamal, this one is for you. It's called Fire. The first one is Firewoman 2, and I chose it because it's a poem on the bus, on the transit, that the Writers' Federation of Nova Scotia chose to go up on the bus, and I've never seen the poem. Several people have screenshot the poem, sent it to me, called me and said, we saw your poem, and I said, which bus? Because I take the number 7 that runs on row B, or the number 80 when we used to have the number 80, it's now the number 8. And I've never seen the poem on the 8th or the 7th, so. But I read it. And perhaps the poem is dedicated to my aunts. My mother had 7 sisters, and they were fierce and beautiful and terrible and loving and all of that, what you can expect from 7 aunts. Old women, perhaps from Dahomey, crept in my house, dressed in robes of crimson, and breathed upon me their breath of fire. They took charge of my house, painted its walls red. This caused unwanted occupants to flee. Then they gave me a fire bath, said it would make me invincible. For my sustenance, they fed me grapes from Mary's vineyard, the juice of which warmed my blood and caused me to utter in scarlet tongues. For my birthday, they gave me live coals and then changed my name to Ruby. So it's all about red, and I hope you've seen that one on the bus. And I also want to thank the JCANS, Jamaican Cultural Association of Nova Scotia. The president is here, Alan Phillips, and Marjorie Lewis, who is a member, for supporting me and always coming out to events in which I participate. And to all my colleagues from Dalhousie, and to all of you. This is just great, and I'm truly thrilled. And I can't believe that 2 years have passed already since I was inaugurated right here in this room, maybe at this very podium as Poet Laureate of the city. And I think it's just wonderful that we have a hall called Halifax Hall. I kind of feel that, if I'm walking on Barrington Street, I can just walk up to City Hall and come in this hall, because it's a hall of the people, right? I hope that's what it is. I hope if I'm coming here, I'm not, booted out. This poem is called Rara. In Jamaica, when you say Rara, it means, what does it mean? It means perhaps, etc., etc. Okay, so it's really a multi-layered word. So it has many meanings. But the meaning I'm thinking of now is mean like you're saying, oh, I saw Habib on the street and she was saying, that she went to Dartmouth and she went to Midbank shopping mall and she bought a nice coat and rah, 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 etc., etc. It has that meaning. But in the French Caribbean, Rara is a band, Rara is a culture, it's a music, it's art, and Rara, the rituals in Rara originates in Haiti, or perhaps it originated in Dahomey, in the Republic of Benin, and went to Haiti, and then it spread all over. So I was in Martinique, in Fort-de-France, which is the capital of Martinique, and they have shortened the name of Fort-de-France to Foyal. It used to be called Fort Royal, and so people say Foyal. I'm going to Foyal, which is Fort-de-France. And it was carnival when I went. And so all over the island, there were these rara bands playing music, dressed in costumes, having flags, performing all kinds of rituals, because intrinsic to rara is voodoo. And so there are people on the street, and it seems like a carnival, but there are a lot of rituals going on. And there were rara bands from Haiti, from Guadeloupe, from Miami, from New York City, from Panama. It was just incredible. The island was, like this huge soundscape and colorscape. And so I wrote this poem. It's called Rara. And it's written in honor of the carnival in Fort-de-France, Martinique, and to the genius of the Haitian people who created Rara culture. And so think of drums. And I'm thinking, seeing all of this in Martinique, in Foyal, and of course as a poet I had to make sense of it, so I created another universe. What is this I hear? 1,000 drums playing, rat-a-tat, 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 tat-tat, and Max Roach conducting, rat-a-tam-tam, 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 trap drums, djembes and congos, and the voices of 100 archangels chanting into the wind. Ra, 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 ra. The drums scream the name of Dahomey, but this is Fort-de-France. Dahomey is on the other side of the ocean. What is this I hear? Rara drums awakening the city. A dog howls. I look through the window. He dives into the sea and disappears while swimming to the other side of the harbor. A cock, its circadian clock, recalibrated, crows at 15 minutes to midday. Rara rhythms have remade the world. But this is not Haiti. How come these Rara people are marching all over Foyal, sending vibrations into the earth, the air, and the sky, answering sacred rhythms with secret rhythms? I am sure they are not mortal beings, but a celestial horde on the march with Babatunde Olatunji. The sound of trap drums, sa-sa-ye, in up to the hills, to Didier, Montartenson, to Trenel, even up to the Balata Road, way past Tivoli, to the volcano named Montpellier, And from the peak of the hill, the drummers and trumpeters look down onto the harbor, look way past the horizon, and beat their thoughts onto the air, sending back the colonizer and Indian killer Desnambuc to the deepest dungeon of France, recrowning Châteauguay, beating the martial rhythms for triumphant Kalinago warriors, reversing the traite négrière, reversing the slave trade, stitching whole again Africa. And in the distance, from the direction of Lamantin, I hear the pounding of hooves, doom, 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 doom. Ooh, the earth trembles in unexpected bliss. I see clouds of brown dust spiraling into the sky. I feel the hot breath of panting steeds rushing toward the city. Somewhere there is a clash of cymbals. A gate opens, mounted men holding a landscape of Kosafa flags rush through. Sparks of fire rise from the horses' hooves. What is this? The cavalry, led by the fugitive slave named Matthew Leveillé? From the savannah, the drummers advance, beating on 1,000 drums, beating on horns and trumpets, bamboo sticks, maracas, shak, 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 bamboo sticks, music not made by human hands. African captives chained at the bottom of slave ship, drowned in the shipwreck at Anse Cafard, and I hear them weeping, wailing, and gnashing their teeth, a fury of chains clanking as the ship crashed on the rocks and sank to the bottom of the sea. Somber ghost stands on the beach, look across the ocean, and cry, "Take us back to Benin, take us back to Dahomey." Now they walk across the landscape at Diamond Rock, beating their chest, "Take us back to Benin, take us back to Benin," beating their chest and chanting a saltwater dirge. Ra-ra from Dahomey, ra-ra from Haiti, ra-ra in Fort-de-France, ra-ra blowing onto the Caribbean Sea, towards St. Lucie and La Dominique, way up to Les Îles des Vierges, and down to the tip of Venezuela, creating this archipelago of rhythms. And then a boy, 14 years old, pierces the air with the fury from his trumpet, and suddenly the cacique Bohichio stirs from his sleep, rubs his eyes, grabs his conch shell, and blows a message over to Cuba, to Hatui, and to Haiti, to Louverture, Desaline, Christophe, Cécile, Fatima, and Hurricane. Huracan, the god of wind and rain, blows his breath across the sea. Hurricane a come, Otobeta run, hurricane a come. Meanwhile, Queen Anacaona, Empress of Hispaniola, stands on the tallest point of Haiti and begins to whirlwind a dance. She whirlwinds a dance. She whirlwinds a final dance for independence. Ra-ra, 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 ta-ra. Thank you so much. C'est tout.
We might have time for a few questions if anyone wants.
And slavery, what are you doing for, or have you done, and are you doing for self-care?
Oh, okay, good question. What am I doing for self-care? You know, it's good to have some time, um, because then you can think, and that's what I've been doing. I've been thinking a lot. I've been thinking fast. I haven't thought for a long time, but that happens when you have time. But I'm not answering your question. I sleep. Yeah, yeah. I love to sleep. Sleep is like the best thing. The best thing. Sleep is the best thing. And now they're saying, you know, if you sleep, if you follow your circadian clock and you sleep at the right time, then there's something called telomeres or telomeres, which is attached to the chromosomes. Your telomeres or telomeres grow longer and it gives you longevity, but that comes from sleeping. So I sleep and I read poetry.
Okay.
That's, you know, I was reading, I told you the Gwendolyn Brooks poem for John, who is poor. It's a wicked poem. When I say wicked, I mean it in the Jamaican sense. Brilliant. Look, check out that poem. This is for John, who is poor. It's only like 8 lines. Right? So you know we aspire to be like Gwendolyn Brooks.
Anyone else? Oh, sure.
Who wants to ask it? Hi. So, is it the mic on? I think so. Okay.
Probably can hear you.
All right. So, what do you envision could be a legacy of your poetry? For example, tonight you had certain presenters present your work. So that's a legacy. It's on the Metro Transit. Do you think what could be a legacy in terms of it being displayed somewhere for future generations? Do you see it being at the airport upon arrival, or even at Kingston Airport upon arrival? Do you see it being presented in a museum somewhere? Think of the future, and you know, what could be a legacy of it? You know, physical, something that physical that you know, where it's presented. I'm curious to know what you might have in mind as ideas.
Oh, the physical legacy of my poetry. Well, one physical legacy is the books, yeah? And so, you know, you as a millennial, you're giving me ideas. Is the legacy to be at the airport as you come out of the plane station, or the train station, or the bus? It's already on the bus. It is a good question. So I will think of all those things. I haven't really thought of my legacy. Usually, when people are thinking of their legacies,
You're a little older.
I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it, yes, Amiga. But, you know, I do my part, and I really think that the word is important. Spoken word is important. Written word is important. As Kamal said in an interview, the spoken word is about relationship, having relationships with people, like back and forth. And that's what I would want.
For people to engage with it.
For people to engage with it, for, you know, now we're talking about Kamal having a legacy, Gwendolyn Brooks having a legacy, Toni Morrison a legacy. These are people who have passed on. So, you know, and so people who are alive can also have a legacy in our own way, right? So let me think more about that, and then I will converse with Marilyn and Jamie and other folks. By the way, I'm still Poet Laureate. It's not over. My Poet Laureate ends April 31st or something like that. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if this is working, but I'm a student at Dow,
I'm almost finished an English degree. And the first course I took when I went to Dal was African American literature. Now, I don't know if you know Dr. Stewart or not, he's gone
Yeah,
now.
and he's,
But can you use your influence to perhaps get another African American literature course on the books? Because it was just such incredibly wonderful
yeah.
experience for me. And I think it's missing.
I go with Anthony Stewart too. He was professor of literature at Dalhousie. He's gone to the United States. Dalhousie should have fought for him to stay, but that didn't happen. We do have two people. We have Asha Jeffers, who I don't think she teaches African American. She more teaches post-colonial literature. She may teach some African American, but she's new. She just came in September in the English department. And Shantae Grant teaches creative writing, but not what Anthony used to do. So I don't know how much influence I have to maybe get Anthony back or get someone else to teach the body of work that he used to teach. But I'll certainly convey to him what you said. There was a hand there, yes.
Thank you very much for all that you continue to do. I have something to say based on the earlier question about legacy. I think it would be awesome to have some plays based on your work done in schools here in Nova Scotia. I think that would be a good legacy.
Some place you said?
Yes.
Yeah.
So my question is two-part. The first part is, before you actually officially took this position, what did you think it was going to be? And after, now that you've done it, what do you see is different from what you thought it would be?
Okay, thank you. Well, the Poet Laureate coordinator is in the room, and that's Jamie McClellan. And when we were interviewed for the position, the committee basically tells you it's open, right? It's kind of like what you want to make it to be. So as our official, we're tasked with this, which is coming next, to be the ambassador for poetry, literacy and the spoken word in Halifax. So then I thought, oh my God, I have to be this ambassador. And so that's what I took it to be. And I hope I was a good ambassador. And so I tried as best as I could. So everywhere that people, if a hospital wing is being opened or other places that I've read poetry for, or the Halifax Explosion event, for example, on December 6th, you're called upon to do these things. So I made myself available. And it could be the simplest thing to the grandest thing. So and one of the events that's gonna happen as part of my Poet Laureateship, I'm partnering with the public library, the Halifax Public Library, on March 4th to do an event for Black History Month. Granted, Black History Month will be over, but we thought it would be nice to extend the activities into March. And in April, which is National Poetry Month, I'm also partnering with the city, Roberto, who's sitting beside you, to from the city to do an event we're going to call Mother Tongue. That's going to be a big event. So people are welcome to come and read, whether it's sing a song or read a poem or tell a story in your mother tongue, which includes sign language. And so we're hoping that to be, because they're something like, I don't know, last count, 18 languages being spoken in Halifax right now, or in Nova Scotia, other than English and French. So Halifax is really a mother tongue city, and we want to showcase that.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
So those are some of the activities that we do. I've spoken to a seniors group. I've spoken to a group of seniors who are entrepreneurs in St. Margaret's Bay. Miss Duperly got me out for that. Just a whole variety of things that I've done as Poet Laureate. I represented Halifax at places in Canada, different cities in Canada as Poet Laureate and as a voice of Halifax. And it's kind of a humbling position too, because at least, I take it down like, oh my God, I'm the voice of Halifax, I'm representing Halifax. I have to make sense. I have to do well. That kind of thing, yeah. Thank you.
Okay.
One last question?
Yes, not a question, but a thought that Habiba, you were asking your mother a question, and if you looked in the mirror, you would see you're part of her legacy. So it was the first time I've been somewhere where the legatant, is that what you call her, is asking the legator or something like that. But you're it, part of it.
Part of it. Thank you. Thanks.
Oh, here's one.
Yeah, it's not a question, it's really a comment. I've heard you many times, and I just feel it needs to be said that you are an amazing communicator, not only through your writing, through your voice, that you have that voice, that you can sing, and when I'm here, I feel very included listening to you. So it is very connective, and I don't know how many people have told you that, but I just feel it has to be said. So thank you, and there's a total naturalness in what you do, and it's quite lovely.
Thank you so much
Oh,
for that compliment.
Yeah.
And again, thanks for coming out.